If the president signs this, what can he say? He can say, look, I wanted 64-mile expansion of the wall. I've got 55 here, and it's just a continuation. He can portray it as a win because the Democrats were offering zip, zero, nada, even though it's less than what Trump said he wanted. Anything that happens that solidifies and cements that effort as being taken and underway, the president can portray as a win. He can always hold out the card of a declaration of a national emergency to get the rest of it built and so forth. So I don't know what they're thinking in the White House on this, but I'm sure they're looking at it somewhat similar to this. If we sign this, how can we portray this as a win to our people? And they could. If he signs this, he's going to have to make the case that you never get everything you want all at once in Washington. We've got divided government. We got them off the zero. We're moving in the right direction. We're continuing to build the wall.
Well, you were listening to Rush Limbaugh there sounding off on a border security deal, how the president has handled it, and a whole lot more. Let's go to our A-team. Brad Blakeman joins us, former deputy assistant to President George W. Bush. Judith Miller, adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, and a Fox News contributor. And David Drucker, senior political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. All right, that is our A-team this morning, Brad. We're left with the big question, will the president sign this deal? Rush Limbaugh is making the case that he could walk away with a win here even if he does.
I think the president should sign it based on what we know now. It's still being put together, but the basics that are known, I think it is a win for the president. In a $4 trillion budget, this is like small claims court. I mean, if both sides go away unhappy, People's Court, it's probably a pretty good deal for both sides, but it's just the beginning. With divided government now, the president has an opportunity to build on his wall as we go. It's tranches of money that will be used.
Does that include declaring a national emergency to secure the rest?
Absolutely.
All right,
yeah.
Judith?
No. Judge Judy.
Judge Judy.
I don't think he's going to declare a national emergency, Brad, and neither do you.
No, I think it's in his arsenal.
Okay, it's in the arsenal,
right.
But it's in the arsenal in the way that another shutdown was in the arsenal, and that is it's guaranteed to divide his own party and therefore not be a win for him. I think that Donald Trump has learned the hard word, compromise, the C word. It's not ugly. It does get you partly where you want to go. But let's face it, this is not a win for Donald Trump because $1.375 billion is less than $1.6 billion, which is what the House and Senate
Nancy Pelosi said she wouldn't give $1.
But last time she agreed to give that, and the president turned it down. So this is taking a very bad situation that he created and putting a good spin on it. But when you can be bullied by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh and told what to do by them, this does not make the president look strong.
What do you think, David?
Well, look, I think the president should have learned a very important lesson, which is, number one, whoever takes responsibility for a government shutdown loses. Even if the American people are with you on policy, they don't like a shutdown being wielded as a tactic, and you lose. Second of all, if the president had kept his word in December, the word he gave to Mitch McConnell, taken the $1.6 billion, he could have then turned it around on new Speaker Nancy Pelosi and said, look, I didn't want 1.6. I wanted a lot more. What are you guys going to give? Instead, he ended up behind the eight ball in a shutdown that didn't work. And even though he got more than zero, he got a lot less than he wanted.
Hold on. He hasn't signed the deal, first of all. And we're getting reporting from the White House right now that the president is in no hurry to sign this border security legislation. So you're talking about it as if he signed it.
I did not. Well, no. He has to sign it by Friday unless he wants the government to go into another shutdown. So the ball is in his court. And we've talked about this, right? I'll tell you what he's going to do when I know who is the last person he is going to speak with. But I think Rush Limbaugh's sign-off is key for him because these are signals he looks for. And I don't think he wants to get into another government shutdown. And a national emergency is constitutionally questionable. He risks a rebuke from Congress, including Republicans in the Senate.
That being said,
we're
reporting, and again, I want to put this out there. This is our reporting from the White House. Our reporter, John Roberts, saying that the president is in no hurry to sign this border security legislation. But there are indications that he is getting, that he is expected to sign that border security legislation. And here is Senator Lindsey Graham just a short time ago in the halls of Congress with the likelihood of the president signing this. Listen.
I spoke to him last night. There's a lot of ifing going on. If you can actually spend the money on barriers as he would like in places he would like, and if there's no real cap on detention bed space for violent criminals, I think the president's inclined to accept the agreement.
This is a fast-moving story right now, and a lot of reaction on that. Wall Street Journal earlier today, here's the opinion piece declaring border victory. It writes the bipartisan deal is the only good way out of this budget box canyon. It says declare victory and get out. Would you do it?
True. And, you know, there's some silver linings here. I think the silver lining, one of them is the fact that I don't think there's going to be another government shutdown under Donald Trump. This has become a third rail for both parties. We're no longer going to use public employees as pawns in a game of extortion. So that's another, I think, positive thing to come out of this. The other thing is, if the president were to sign this bill, again, this is just the beginning of border security that's going to be revisited time and time again.
Time and again.
As Lindsey Graham said, the president has discretionary funds at his disposal to use, not using his emergency powers.
Got it. I want to move to another topic, Sandra. Go ahead, Omar.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, she's tweeting, again, just a few moments ago, but first I want to set this up for you. Obviously, she's come under fire for these anti-Semitic tweets for which she has apologized, sort of. If you look at the end of that apology, that didn't satisfy a lot of folks that have been looking on at this. The vice president has weighed in with this tweet, saying those tweets were a disgrace and her apology was inadequate. Anti-Semitism has no place in the United States Congress, he writes, much less the Foreign Affairs Committee. Those who engage in anti-Semitic tropes should not just be denounced. They should face consequences for their words. This is in the wake of multiple calls from members of that committee for her to be removed from that post. She is now firing back. This directed towards the president. I don't have it in front of me, so if you can throw it up.
Got it right here.
All right, you read it. Go for it.
Donald Trump, you've trafficked in hate your whole life against Jews, Muslims, indigenous, immigrants, black people, and more. I learned from people impacted by my words. When will you? Speaking of fast-moving stories, we have another angle on this now.
And I think it's important to see what she was firing back, because the president put in his own words a call for her to be removed from that committee. He said, I think she should be ashamed of herself. I think it was a terrible statement. I don't think her apology was adequate, David.
Right. I don't think that she has fully grasped what was wrong with her initial words that got her into trouble. It wasn't that she has a different idea of what U.S. policy toward Israel should be. It wasn't that she has been critical of Israeli policy. It has to do with using tropes that suggest American lawmakers are favorable toward Israel because they're being bought off by Jewish money. And so I think over time, and her apology has been criticized on the right, it's so far accepted on the left, I think over time we will see if she has accepted and changed the problematic parts of the language that she has been using. I will say I don't think it serves her well or the president well to get involved in a tit-for-tat and a war of words about who is more anti-Semitic or who is more offensive. Politically, it does neither of them any good.
The way he's framing this is that she does not understand the intent of her words, even to this point. Do you believe
And
that?
I believe that's true. I think that what we've seen with this young representative is a pattern of such tweets and behavior, and an unwillingness to understand what she's really saying and why it offends people so deeply. On the other hand, I would be much more comfortable with the criticism of her and the demands for her to be removed from the committee if we had heard Donald Trump speak up about Steve King, which we still have not. That hasn't happened.
They took action against Steve King.
They did.
Should she keep her position on this committee or not?
She should not. But
She should not, I
Should not.
think.
David?
I think that the Democrats would actually make a martyr out of her if they removed her from the committee. I think they are in a better position to have an influence on her and on the party if they are very critical and demand stronger language from her without removing her from the committee.
We're going to be watching that hearing today. It will begin shortly. Thank you, all three, David Drucker, Judith Miller, and Brad Blake.
Thank you.